Hi, everybody. Our story begins many miles away in the high Himalayas and the Tibetan plateau, from where the great rivers of Asia begin and flow. But to me, the greatest of these is the Brahmaputra, known also as the Sangpo, the Yarlung Sangpo. As it travels across Tibet, takes an impossible U-turn, loops into itself, plunges into Arunachal Pradesh, and then passes through Assam into Bangladesh and ends its journey after joining the Ganga in Bangladesh as the Podda and ends in the Bay of Bengal. Along its great and long journey, the river is constantly building. It's carrying sediment over millions of years and millions of tons, tens of millions of tons of sediment down the valley into the Bay of Bengal. And that's really the context for today's story. We have in Assam a unique phenomenon which you don't see in many other parts of the world. The islands of the Brahmaputra, on which something like 2 million people live. That's on 2,500 islands. And the conditions on these islands are challenging and difficult. People are poor, they're marginalized, they suffer from the double whammy of social and geographical exclusion. And I'm a storyteller. I make films, I write books, I write articles. And I was traveling on the Brahmaputra. I've traveled on it from Tibet to the Bay of Bengal. But in this particular incident, I was traveling one evening across the river to an island in the heart of the river. And there I heard a story that would change my life and the lives of lakhs of others who were impacted by it. I heard the story of a young woman who died in childbirth on that very ferry while coming the other way. And when I went across to the island, I did a bit of research and found to my absolute horror that this was not a lone incident. There are many like it, and Assam had the worst maternal mortality ratio in the country. That is, there was greater risk of a young woman dying in childbirth than from any other cause. And I said to myself, this is an unacceptable situation. I did some more research and I came up with what I've just told you. 20 lakh people, 2 million people on 2,500 islands. So, I'm a journalist. You see the river, it's massive. How do you deal with it? How do you tackle this problem? And to me, the answer came very simply. You don't tackle it, you work with the river. Because in the river, in the problem, is the solution. And you can't build bridges everywhere. You can't fly helicopters to places. But you can take boats everywhere. So we designed a boat. We won a World Bank award, which would essentially take the boat to the places where it was most needed, or the boats to the places where they were most needed. And we called it a boat of hope in a valley of flood. I know with a title like that, you'll win an award. But what happened afterwards was we had to make it sustainable. It can't be a one-off event. This is a huge problem. So we involved the district administration. And then, because for issues like this, the stakeholder, the principal stakeholder's role is critical. A small NGO can't do it. So we designed the boat. The boat had cabins on it for doctors, for nurses, lab technicians, and even a pharmacist. And there was a crew and a cook. So we did the initial runs. It seemed to work. And we realized that you need scale to deal with a problem as huge as this. You can't do it with one boat. So we decided to build many boats, and for that the government came in. We had philanthropists, the philanthropist and writer Swaminathan Iyer, he contributed money to build 6 boats in the names of his family members. And so it went on. But to us, the greatest challenge was, how do you make it sustainable? And this is where the role of the principal stakeholder becomes critical. Once we had that support, we could do this almost every day, every month, over a period of years. Today, Assam's maternal mortality ratio has dropped hugely. It's about 195 compared to 493 20 years ago. And it's not just because of the boat clinics. It's part of an overall thing in which people have really worked very hard in government to deliver services across the state. Now, that's one part of the problem, one part of the challenge. The other we found is that how do you build trust? You build trust by connecting with people on a sustained basis. You can't do it on an ad hoc basis. Because they said to us, oh, you've come, you'll go away, and you'll come back only during the floods. I said, we're here to stay. And it's only after a few years that they began to trust us. And to me, the greatest challenge in working in difficult conditions like this, to our teams who work day and night in the field at great risk to themselves, is really to meet that challenge by being sustained and continuing to work in these areas, whatever the weather, whatever the conditions. Now, I'll tell you a little story about trust, because it is on which everything hinges: relationships, individual relations between a husband and wife, between communities, between countries. Trust is what builds good relationships. So one of our boat clinics was coming back one evening from a trip, and they found a couple of people waving to them from a small island, a spit of land in the river, where the river two channels met. And they hastened to that place because they saw a problem of distress, and they saw this child, the child of the couple, who was suffering from acute breathing problems. She was turning blue. But they had the right medicine, and they were able to reach her with the right medicines, treat her, and save her life. And I think the doctor there asked the question, he was curious, how did you know that we are coming this way? You waved to us as if you were waiting for us. He said, if you go on this channel, you come back in 3 days. You go on that channel, you come back in 2. So sustainability and trust built on service, that's the key. Now, we do these health services with the backing of the government, yes, but now we're thinking of other things. We can't just do one thing. You have to do many things. So we're thinking of rural ambulances on the islands, rural transport, design and build boats which could be libraries. We could also develop boats which take teachers and children to school and back, because dropouts is a big problem, especially for girl children in a place like Assam, rural Assam. And that's how you really tackle an issue like this, because dropout means a child can get married off at a very young age, you have teenage pregnancies, and you have the whole vicious cycle repeating again. So that was the challenge. These remain the challenges, but there are many innovations that one can do, because the boat is not just a boat, it's an app. It's a platform which can bring many changes to many people over a long period of time. So I want to invite you to join me in this challenge, and let's work together to make truly a better world. Thank you.